everyone, it's Kerry back with you today. I've been having lots of fun creating these little butterfly clusters that are sort of a bit boho themed, and I had a few people ask me how I put them together, so I thought I'd pop on and show you that today. Now, one of the items that I've used to create them is this printed sheet. Now, this is a digital freebie that you will find in our shop. The link will be in the description box below. But just quickly before we get into the creating, I wanted to touch on making sure you have the right materials for the job. So for example, I've printed this one on a matte photo paper and I've got a nice crisp vibrant image, whereas on this one I've printed the same image but it's just on regular copy paper. So it really is important to make sure that you have the right tools for the right job. It's sort of like the ingredients for the cake. If you don't have the right ingredients, then the cake's not going to turn out that great. Anyway, let's crash on and I'll show you how I've created these clusters today. So to begin with, this is just some vintage German book paper, and I've transfer dyed some colours onto that. Now, if you don't have transfer dyes, you could just use watercolours or any other paint, just any kind of colour to get some colour onto the page here. And I'm just going to tear a piece out. I like this sort of big font at the top here. So I'm trying to keep that, and I want it to be about 2.5 or 3 inches wide, so about that big. So on top of my paper here, I'm going to add a piece of this lovely French lace, and I really like this lace because it's sort of like it's got segments, almost like applique segments. So I'm just going to cut a piece of that, and I'm going to set that about there. And the next thing I'm going to do is take a piece of this digital and I'm going to tear a piece about 1.5 inches or so wide. So I don't want a straight edge here, so I'm going to tear it. Now if I tear it this way, I'm going to end up with a white edge on the edge of my torn piece. But if I tear it the other way, sort of tearing down rather than up, then I don't have that white edge showing. It doesn't matter if you do, you might like that look, or you can just always ink around the edges. So just tearing away those straight edges there. And pop that over. So, yep, that's going to be long enough for my piece. Just curl that down a little bit to help it sit flat while I'm building my layers. So the next thing I want to add is some coloured cheesecloth. So I've got a couple of bits here. I've sort of got this bright greenish one, and you only need a really small amount. So I'll just snip a bit off there. And then I've got this sort of more vibrant purpley orangey pink one. I'll just snip a bit of that one off as well. Then I'm going to sort of manipulate and stretch out the cheesecloth so it's not just like little even holes, it's sort of looking a bit distressed. And then I'm just going to lay that over the top and do the same with the green. Just sort of pulling it apart so that I change the way the weave looks on the fabric. Then I'll layer that over the top as well. So that sort of softens the background a bit and brings a little bit more colour to the front. I've also got some of this shimmery gold leaf trim that I have again transfer dyed on the opposite side. But again, you could just use paint or watercolour sprays, anything like that to get some colour into it. And I'm just going to snip off a little piece and layer that across the top. And then I'll take another piece of black lace. Now this is sort of more of an open weave. There's lots of big holes in it. And I just want a piece to pop over the top It doesn't have to cover everything. So I'll just layer that over the top like that. Then I'm going to take this whole thing over to my sewing machine, and I'm going to run a row of stitching down on top of this gold leaf trim, and then another one about 1 inch apart covering the rest of these loose elements, just to stabilise everything. So now I've stabilised everything on top of my piece of paper at the back here. Sadly, I've lost my script along the top, but that's all right. I might just tear that little piece off there because it's sort of flaking away. Now this paper's pretty fragile, so if I was going to have this just as a loose cluster, I'd probably back it onto something a bit more sturdy, but I'm most likely going to glue this down onto something, so it doesn't matter. So once I've sewed that down, I can give my cheesecloth a bit more character by tugging and sort of pulling bits out. If I get any really long bits, I just trim them back. Just gives it that sort of more worn and distressed look. Okay, so now I want to pop a butterfly and a little word on here. So I'll just sort of have a bit of an overall look at what colours are standing out to me the most in the cluster, and then I'll pick something that I think would complement that. So I think I might go with this blue butterfly because I think it pulls out this blue over here. Just going to shape the wings a little bit. I'm just going to grab some ink and go around the edges of my butterfly. So I'll just reshape those wings a little bit. Excuse my filthy hands. They're actually clean, but I've been dyeing fabrics, so I'll have to be wearing this dirty hand look until it wears off. Alright, so I think he'll be fine there, and then I want to just add a little word. So I'll just pop that sample word there. So I'm just going to use hot glue to adhere these elements down. So to finish off my cluster, I'm just going to add a couple of these little bright gems just to add a bit more bling. And I sort of half hide them under the lace. So they just sort of peek out in places here and there. And then again, I just use a little bit of hot glue to attach those. So there we go, and that one's ready to be used now. So they're pretty quick and easy to put together, and I really have fun making these sort of things. I'll pop links in the description box below to the freebie and also a few other bits and pieces that I've used in today's project. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'll see you again next time. Bye!